Welcome to a very special episode of the Clyde FC podcast. Not so Friday Night Live this week, as we are delighted to be joined by the Clyde gaffer, Danny Lennon, to look back on the first quarter of the season now that we have played 9 league games, and to get Danny's thoughts on where we're currently at and what we need to do going forward. First of all, Danny, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite, Paul. It's a pleasure, and hello to all the podcast listeners out there and Clyde fans.
Yeah, so thank you for leading me perfectly in there. We will obviously be on YouTube this week with the show and also through our audio-only listeners. Thank you very much for downloading and listening in. So we'll skip right to it, Danny. What are your kind of general thoughts on the season to date? Would you say we're on track, work in progress, below par? What's your take?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're certainly in progress of where we want to be. It's been a very up and down season to date with a few surprises in there, Paul. Surprises that are positive and negative. And I think the positives where we are is that we started the league well, probably surprising a lot of people that we scored 4 goals in Dumfries, 3 against Kelty, and that we're still in the Challenge Cup, and we beat a team from the Championship and the League Cup, Morton. And big negatives are that we're out of the League Cup and are now on a run of 6 defeats, which is unacceptable in the league. And included in that run are a couple of games that there's no doubt that we should have taken points from the balance of play. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But every season, has its unique challenges. And this season, we're in a new stadium. We've got a new group of players. We're training at 2 different other venues during the week, which isn't ideal, but it's where we're at this moment in time. And you could argue that this puts us at a slightly disadvantage. We're the proper gypsies now, Paul. And these are challenges and overcoming challenges. That's what football's all about. And we're up for taking these challenges on. And I believe, in myself, my own ability. I believe in my coaching staff and the group of players that we've recruited. And I believe that we'll triumph over them and make this another positive season in the Clyde story.
So yeah, obviously you mentioned the run of 6 defeats in a row. We will come to that. It's fair to say that that's high in the agenda point just now with the fans. However, you also mentioned the move from Broadwood to New Douglas Park. It was a very busy summer, both on and off the field for the club. Now, for yourself, there was a fair amount of transfer activity, building a team around the new home as such, and the League Cup campaign. How did you think that the League Cup campaign and the summer kind of set us up ahead of going into the start of League One?
Yeah, I thought, in terms of the size of club that we are, by giving out 1-year contracts, being the norm for a club our size, Paul, we always have a lot of activity and business to take care of in the summer. And I think overall, in reflection, we have a stronger squad of players than last season. Very good options in defence, the middle of the park, and in attack. I don't have to miss someone that's been there for the last 5 years with us. That's no longer. He's never going to be replaceable. But that's a new chapter. That's closed, and it takes time for a new squad to gel and to get the best out of the starting 11. I felt that the Hibs game came too soon in the League Cup for the level of where they were. It was always going to be a big ask going to Easter Road, and it was no surprise that we lost the game. The Bonnyrigg one, that was a result that was a disappointing one. But again, Paul, we were still assembling the squad, and the league campaign is coming to us soon. For the league campaign now is coming too soon for clubs these days, and I certainly believe that other managers, have highlighted that in the media, that it comes around too quickly. It seems to be geared for all the full-time clubs, the big guns. There's no doubt in my mind. And then within that, there are challenges. You've got to try and hit the ground running. We gave a very good account of ourselves in the game against Morton, keeping a clean sheet against the opposition for a higher league. Took our 2 goals very, very well, and that was a taste of things to come. For the start of the league campaign, And then we finished the league campaign with a loss to Falkirk, which was a very, very close game. And you're always naturally disappointed to lose any game in the cup, and perhaps more disappointed to lose to a team that's in the same league as you, Paul. And as you would see, a team for the same league is being, round about the same level. And all these things considered, being in a League Cup group with 3 full-time teams, you wouldn't expect to progress. You would hope to progress, but not expect it. So it's not a huge shock that our league campaign ended there.
How difficult do you find it, Danny, as a manager for the League Cup? It's normally, and historically, been a time of friendlies for all clubs, every division, but now you're thrown head first into competitive football whilst formulating your own team and an ethic for the team going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult to get that balance?
There's no doubt. I think the balance is really hard for part-time clubs, Paul, because it takes a good number of weeks even into the season before your squad's finally assembled, and that's not really down to the part-time clubs. That's to do with the personnel that they're chasing out there. That these players are trying to hold on and go to bigger clubs, but everybody can't take all the good players. So there's a filter that comes down there, and then there's a place where you got to go, and then bang, you find that level again. And sometimes coming into the League Cup game, we didn't have any centre backs, right until the final week. Particularly when we realised that the documents for Fico and Big Eric weren't coming through. Luckily, when Brian McLean came back his holiday, we sold ourselves well with the vision of the club, my philosophy and where I seen Brian as a leader. And, I was absolutely delighted to get him on board, but we needed another one in there with him. And as I said, Peter Grant at that time was hopeful of getting something, full time. So we had to be patient and wait. So at that particular time, in terms of where we were, we had to make sure that we got players in that could go and compete. But it wasn't ideal for us. It wasn't ideal at all. And as I said there, and I think it's even harder that in that cup competition, Paul, that you can't even play trialists. There was some teams were even struggling to put subs out at the beginning, and I think that belittles the tournament even more than no doing it, with full squads, and I think you've got players' health to worry about as well. There, the fitnesses and avoiding injury. There's a lot to take into that.
Yeah, just on when you were talking about other clubs, I think Peterhead were probably kind of case in point for that. I think they had to coax an ex-player out of retirement, I think, just to fill their bench, along with maybe signing someone in the twilight of his career playing.
Yeah, and that's my point, Paul. How's that strengthening the tournament? It's not, and I think it's ideal for clubs like ourselves and the part-time clubs that they're good competitive games, and it's great if we were able to play a few trialists in those games against highly competitive teams, and it'd be a worthwhile exercise looking into that, because it would maybe enhance the tournament, or you maybe get one or two smaller clubs, getting to the latter stages again, which is very difficult. It just stacks up, and it looks for the outside that it's all geared for the big guns to get there.
Yeah. So obviously you were busy in the transfer market, Danny. You touched upon it. It seems to be obviously a kind of yearly thing with us only offering 1-year deals. You spoke of your frustration, I think it was around this time last year, at not kind of getting the first choice targets. Are you a lot happier this year with that aspect of the transfer dealings?
Yeah, I think we hit the ground running. I think we got off to a flyer, Paul, in terms of what we wanted, and we deliberately recruited, more pace up front, in the middle of the pitch, more dynamic. Over the summer there, as we were looking to play, fast counter attacking football, which I think you've seen. And last season, I felt at times, Paul, we were outpaced at times last season. We didn't want to see that happen again, certainly in the middle of the pitch, and we wanted more pace up top, as it's a real advantage in this league. And it's it certainly worked well for us in the first 3 games where we scored 9 goals, and there you are, Paul. This management at that point of the season, looked dead easy.
Yeah. So yeah, that then kind of leads me perfectly on to the opening games of the season, Danny. The only disappointment probably from the first 3 games was that we weren't 9 from 9. I mean, we were playing free-flowing, high-scoring football, devastating on the counter-attack. You mentioned yourself the counter-attacking football. Was that then a tactical decision that yourself and Alan and the backroom staff made ahead of the season, using that pace on the attack?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And getting that personnel in, and the players that could buy into that. And not just buy into it, Paul. It takes a certain character to want to have that desire to go in beyond, and sometimes not get the end result out of it, but that's what good teams do. They're unselfish, they do all that type of work. And the games when we went in, we thought, how do we keep going, and playing at this level with the ball and without the ball. I thought we were excellent. I think a big factor in terms of where we were going and how pre-season had went for us, I thought the injury to Connor Duffy was a massive blow for us. He was excellent against Queen of the South, and you could see what kind of character Connor's got. For the first 20 seconds, he's setting up Queen of the South on an attack and then scoring. It shows you how quickly you get off his disappointment and grab the game by the scruff of the neck. Not just him that day, but him in particular. I thought as the game went on, he was absolutely outstanding and he's a big part of our plans this season. So that was a setback affecting some of the chemistry and the balance of the team in terms of in the middle to top area. Just on a note of Connor, he's making an absolutely fantastic recovery.
That's good.
He got his heart surgery yesterday, so he's asked me to say a big thank you to all the well wishers and everybody that's asking for him out there. So he really appreciates all the kind wishes and the support for the Bully Wee faithful. And hopefully it's not too long before we see him back. The medical staff have done a fantastic job taking time out their own daily their daily work to work with them, throughout the day, a couple of days a week. So that's been great.
Oh, it's really, really encouraging to hear. You sum it up perfectly. I think Connor was so good for us. Even in the League Cup campaign, even when results weren't particularly good, you could see that he gave us a real dynamic. I can't even say the word I'm looking at. A dynamic up front.
Yeah, it's did, Paul. And even just the character of the boy where he is now, and you can see his frustration because he knows where we are and everybody's hurting at this moment in time, and he's dying to play his part. And let me tell you, he's absolutely fantastic in the dressing room. The boys, he just knows to say the right things. When the boys are there or whatever, he's playing his part as much as he possibly can. And at the beginning of the season, there, Paul, there was certainly games that you had mentioned. It should have been 9 out of 9. The Peterhead game that was a game that we won. It was a game that we threw away and then had to go and try and win it again. But unfortunately, the opportunities that we created that day, didn't go beyond the 2 goals. But there was a lot of pleasing stuff. I think the character of the team then, to be 2-0 up and then bring it back to 2-2, but then to try to kick on in the way that they did, Paul. And the only thing that was missing that afternoon when it went to 2-2 was another goal. We certainly had the opportunity to do so, and that was certainly a massive 2 points drop.
Yeah, the encouragement all at that time though was the consistent amount of chances we were creating, Danny. Queen of the South 4-1 certainly didn't flatter us. If we'd scored 4, possibly 5, even against Peterhead, it wouldn't have flattered us also. And then obviously we took 3 off of Kelty Hearts. So, as you said, management's easy at that time. Everything's going smoothly. Thereafter, this is where obviously it takes a bit of a nosedive, for want of a better phrase. At first, though, it perhaps wasn't as dramatic as it maybe has went in recent times. Montrose and Edinburgh were very even affairs. We touched upon it just after the Montrose game, the 2-1 defeat. It was very, very close in the sense that swing of Peter Grant's left boot, an injury time, and it could have been a point on the road. The FC Edinburgh match, the amount of chances we created to not score must have been bitterly disappointing for yourself and for the players alike and fans. There was enough encouragement there, but obviously with the Edinburgh game, we started to see some of the individual errors that have went on to unfortunately become more symptomatic of our issues at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Montrose game, I thought it was quite an even, a fair game, Paul. And we did have a good opportunity to take something that day. And in the Edinburgh game, I think when you're creating opportunities like that, it's very, very important, that you can take one or two of the opportunities that maybe takes that bit of pressure off. Not the defence, but I mean the team defensively, gives you, if you're scoring goals, you grow in a bit of confidence. So you do. So at this minute in time, we know where we are. We're all hurting terribly. And it's like, we won't make excuses, Paul. I won't sit here and say refereeing outside influences or anything like that. We are where we are, and we've got, myself, got to be accountable for that. We've a lot of work to improve on defensively. Everyone in the pitch has those defensive duties to perform. And I thought in the first few games of the season that collectively as a team we were fantastic. Not just going forward and creating. So we all have to work to bring the best out of ourselves. Again, it helps if you keep 10 men on the pitch when you're in good positions, and in control of a game. And with the benefit of hindsight, Paul, moving to a back three at that particular time didn't work well for us.
Sorry to intervene there, Danny, but that's obviously been widely discussed within the fan base, as was the change around that time from the 4 to the 3. Can you give the fans a bit of kind of perspective as to the thinking behind that at the time?
I mean, the thinking, it's like anything, Paul, when you're coach, manager, you never ever want to just rest on what you've got at any given time, whether that's going well or bad or indifferent. I think you're always looking to improve.
Yep.
And I knew the strengths of what Big Stephen had. I knew what Big Eric. Now I hold my hand up and take responsibility that, and along the way that individual errors have cost us, there's no doubt about that, but also take responsibility for the formation, the tactics and the player selection round about that time. And more so to do with a mental aspect of perhaps these players coming in, what they were having to go through. Stephen in particular, he's with his work permit, he was going through a lot in terms of his wife and his kids were born in Scotland. His wife is Scottish, and there was a difficulty whether he was going to be here or not, or whether he was going to get sent back to. So there was big emotional twist in Stephen. However, Paul, I thought in the game that we did, the first game that we brought in and went to the back three, I thought we were outstanding in the first half against Alloa.
Sorry, against Kelty as well, Danny, or am I getting that wrong? The 3-0 game against Kelty, was that a 4 or a 3 at the back?
I'm sure that was still the 4, Paul.
Was it?
I think it was. I think it was Alloa that he first came in.
Yep.
So it was. I think no, you might be right actually, Paul. I'm trying to think. No, and then Big Eric had came in. Also, I'm positive it was the first game was against Alloa, and I thought we were very, very good. in the first half without going in with our noses in front. We picked ourselves up. What I did start to see, you know, in that particular time, particularly when Alaba scored their second goal, you know, you could see a disjointment, you know, and you could see one or two things not going in the way that we had. And that was changes that were probably, you know, made me be thinking that the level of where Stephen's been, you know, the qualities that we've seen throughout pre-season with Big Eric, you know, that we could improve, that we could get a bit more physicality in the team in terms of physical presence, etc. And it didn't work out for us at that particular time. That we weren't ready for that formation, and I hold my hands up. I hold my hands up for that, you know, and I think those that do little work, Paul, don't make mistakes.
Yeah, very true. That is true. I think if the players were hiding, you would probably be more angry than.
Yeah, I think we're competed very well in most of the games, Paul. I think there's only 2 games of date that I would say the Alaba game, when the second goal goes in, and the second goal against Airdrie. That's when I felt that for the remaining minutes of the games where we just participated. Every other game, I felt that we've competed to the levels that we can. You've also got to understand that for the first 3 games of the season, that other teams are going to improve and gel together also. You know, they're going to get fitter. So it's very much something that we're working on, Paul, to get right. And, you know, we do need to be more clinical in the opposition box, which, as I said earlier, takes great pressure off our defence. It increases that confidence, you know, which is a very important ingredient to any successful team. Yeah,
so one point to address, I think, is the goals against Column. I think in this particular run, Danny, it's I think 18 now in the last 6. It's not great. There's no polishing that any other way. It must be extremely frustrating for yourself, though, that the vast majority of these goals that we're conceding are so preventable.
Yeah,
that I think the opposition are really having to do a lot to get these chances and the goals we're conceding.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You know, I wish we would get presented with opportunities in the way that we give it away, Paul. And that is a learning curve, particularly young players have to go through. And that's me not saying that every individual error's come from young boys. There's, you know, everybody's had a part to play, and we're all accountable for that. But throughout these mistakes, Paul, you know, we've got to make sure that they're not repeated. The thing with our mistakes at this minute in time, they seem to be everything that we get punished with at this moment in time. We seem to, every mistake that we make, particularly in the defensive third, we're getting very, very much punished for it. I'll go back to the Alaba game and certainly the goals that we lost that game. And I certainly believe in the level of where we all are, whether we played with a back 4 or a back 3 or a 5 at this minute in time, we wouldn't lose goals like that again, Paul. Definitely not. In terms of where Stephen, Eric and Big Brian and Pedro are at this minute in time. But it's something that, yeah, it's a big, big concern. It's something that we've got to just grow in confidence, and we're trying, we're working hard to try and play with our same philosophy in terms of the way that we want to play. We want to entertain the fans. We want to play that free-flowing football. We must be respectful of teams that come and press us in the right areas, you know, and maybe make forceful errors. But as you say, Paul, out of the majority of the goals, I can't really look back and say that was a great team goal. I think the one that I can go back to the furthest is probably the Edinburgh City second goal. You know, where they do us from a counter attack. So they do. That would probably be the only one that I would say, you did well to get that. Everything else, certainly preventable, and it's something that we've got to improve on quickly, collectively and individually.
Yeah, I think the thing for myself and other Clyde fans is that at the moment when we do concede one, we do seem to be far more susceptible and likely, dare I say it, to concede a second and or third. If you are conceding 3 goals a game, you're only really struggling to pick up points.
No, yeah, Paul, and I think, we've spoke about the mentality of the group. I spoke about the Alaba game and the Airdrie game there, that I could see the energy getting sucked out of the team when the second goal goes in there, and that's where you look for your characters, your leaders, to gel that together. You look at Saturday's one against Montrose, and I thought there was good for long periods up until the sending off. There was very much good things in the game, Paul, and I thought we were in control of the game at that point.
Yeah, I think we were going on to win that game. I think 11
versus we certainly, I don't think we would have lost it, Paul. Neither would do. But the big thing for me and what I seen was that when the sending off took place, that was a blow, and it's something that in the past Clyde players and teams that I've had over the years, that down to 10 men, it galvanises them, gives them that wee bit of energy, and you're looking for that. But I think they were hit with a double blow too early, Paul, because the goal then comes roughly 90 seconds after the sending off. And, I'm as honest as the day comes, I could see their chest going for here and their shoulders upright to going negative, and it just seemed to drain us. But, that is something that we spoke about this week. We spoke after the game. We spoke about it on Tuesday evening there, and it's something that we've got to do better at. We've got to do better and make sure that we compete and try and have that winning mentality for the 90 plus minutes.
Yeah, I think it was, I'm going to regale on some historic football knowledge here that I have, but I think Jock Stein mentioned that if you look to your left-hand side or your right-hand side and your teammate's not having the best of day, you up your work rate to make sure you bail him out. Is that what you're kind of looking for there? So if players are maybe slumped, that someone else kind of not takes the weight off them per se, but kind of helps them through that. And at present, we're just maybe not getting that from
I mean, you've got good characters in there. Big Brian McLean's a good leader. Big Peter Grant's a good pro. Raymond Grant, I think Raymond has been very, very consistent throughout. You get the likes of Magaro Gomez, who maybe do it in a different way, Paul, maybe not verbally or whatever. But he's infectious and with the energy that he brings, and we encourage the players, to make. They're going to make mistakes, Paul. Every player, even the top players, make them. They play at the top level because they make them less frequent than players at our level, so they do. But it's trying to eradicate that and try and improve every single week. As I said, I believe in the group of players that we've got. I believe in the big thing that I'm working out with them now, Paul, for instance, is their characters. You're not going to get that every in such a short period of time in 3 months. And the character and the one that I threw at them was, I remember certain periods. This is the worst one that I've ever been on. A defeats, Paul, in my managerial career or play. And we spoke about at times in the past that we've had a few runs like this, even with the squad that we had last year, maybe at the tail end after the cup games, etc. That these players maybe went on that 3-4 game run of defeats, but what they did show, they showed character, and when they had to win, they won. This is something that this group's not done yet, so that is something that we're working on.
So that then leads me perfectly on to this Saturday's game then, Danny. Would you class it as a must-win at this stage? It's perhaps a phrase that's bandied about maybe too often in football, but obviously you mentioned yourself there, this is the worst run of your own managerial career. You want to put that at an end first and foremost for the club and get us moving in the right direction again.
Yeah, there's no doubt. As I said earlier in the interview, Paul, I believe in my own ability. I believe and the staff that we've got. You know, Marcel and Alan have had very good experience in moments like this in football. And the biggest thing is, you know, we're up for that challenge. We've got a group of players that are certainly up for the challenge. And you know, we all went out for a team meal last Wednesday, you know, and the turnout was absolutely fantastic in such a short notice. So it tells you that they're all buying into it, Paul, and we're doing everything that we can to try and get us across that line. Well, I've always said that, you know, we're just coming by the first quarter now, or we're going into the second one, and you know, we're still, for me, at the sprint part of the season where everybody takes off and everybody's trying to find their way. Yep. You know, there's still 27 games to go, Paul.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, there's a marathon still ahead there at this minute in time. Yeah, we've let it slip. We find ourselves having to play a bit of catch up, but it's something that we're certainly up for that challenge. So the biggest thing for me, Paul, is that we stop the rut that we're on at this minute in time. 3 points would be absolutely fantastic, and that's our main aim in every single game that we go into, is to win and to pick up points. That's the nature of the game. That's the end of the business that we're in. But you know, going there and not losing, it wouldn't be a disaster, you know, because it would stop a cycle that we find ourselves at the minute. And I mean, that's me not going there and going all defensive or whatever. But it's important that we break the cycle that we find ourselves in. And you know, going up to Kelty, had Kelty's results this week, you know, perhaps as you say, adds that bit of pressure. But I think these type of things are good. I think players manage. I think we all perform better when we're under a bit of pressure, Paul. So the pressure in needing a result and what you're expecting from our opponents on Saturday, and more so, you know, is, you know, what you're expecting from our boys once they cross that line at 3 o'clock. You know, we've got to go there and compete and be strong and remember, don't dwell on, but remember what we are capable of. It's easy to remind in the moment that we are, but you know, you can't. You don't see the farmer in his field, you know, when he's ploughing it, Paul. He doesn't look back, or his lines will be all over the place. You know, he looks ahead, and that's what we've got to do. I think Kelty going into Saturday will provide a stronger test than they did when we ran out 3-0 winners at the beginning of the season. They had a poor start to the season, but you know, as I said, they're adjusting now and picking up points. So I expect our boys who have the honour to go and wear that jersey, you know, that Clyde shirt, give maximum effort, play for each other, and play to win.
That's all the fans they want, really.
Yeah.
And deliver it, and fans are happy. And next time we have you on, it'll be hopefully much cheerier.
Listen, it's things, Paul. I'm very much aware of. I think the timing of this is good. I think the interaction that I do have with the supporters, whether that be good, bad, or indifferent, you know, their support's been absolutely fantastic, and it's important, you know, that they hear for the manager, because you're the link between the supporters and what's going on behind the scenes. So I don't have any problem. You know, it's nice letters of love. You know, the plaudits and all that, they're nice, but these are the ones, you know, that it's easy to perhaps maybe shirk away from, and that is certainly something Marcel and Alan in their playing careers and their managerial careers, you know, will certainly never do.
Right, you're seamlessly linking men here, Danny. We haven't actually rehearsed this, I promise. Now, we will end this on a slightly more light-hearted note. Now, when we do get your squad members on the show, Danny, we like to do a rip-off of the old Soccer AM segment. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, called Teammates.
Right.
And it's basically, we're going to give you the chance to either call out some players from your own playing career, or if you want, from your time as a manager, past or present club. And yeah, we'll run through some off-the-cuff questions, and you can just give a couple of names and maybe some reason behind why you're picking them. Okay. So I think I've got 8 questions here. And fire through them. Right. So, best trainer you've worked with?
Best trainer would be John Collins, when I was at Hibs, I was just a young boy coming in. I had the pleasure of being a teammate with John for a couple of seasons. You could just tell how hungry he was, for success. I think he played in the Hibs team for the age of 17, and he was at it every single day, Paul, on and off the training pitch. How he looked after himself, how he slept. He was years ahead of what everybody in Scotland. In 1985, I joined him. In 1985, he was exceptional. I think somebody that John looked up to, he was a couple of years older than he was, God rest him, was Eric. Remember the player Eric Shadler?
I don't recognise
him. He was a great pro as well. But, John Collins, you could see it never ever surprised me what he went on to do, to go and play with Celtic, Monaco. Even at Monaco, he went there and thought in Scotland he was doing all the right things, but totally reinvented himself when he went to Monaco and what the Europeans were doing. How he ate. He was too bulky for the Scottish game. He was too slow when he went to France. So he adapted to that. And like anything, good players listen and they go and work and they put the time in that in. The closest I would see to John Collins that I've worked with was John McGinn at St Mirren. Absolutely exceptional. And it's no surprise to me the levels and the heights that he's reached, Paul. He's a special player.
You weren't the manager that he referred to when he was talking about getting talked out of using his backside as an in-game weapon, shall we call it?
No, it wouldn't be me. I mean, I thought that was his biggest asset. So it was.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely wonderful in the way that he uses it, the intelligence that he has to get himself out of tight areas. But John McGinn. John McGinn is just one of the guys, that you wouldn't have to ask to bring out training equipment, cones, balls, bibs, or whatever, or ask him if any players to. He would just be. He just does it naturally. It's just in his makeup. He is proper. He's proper.
Okay, we'll flip it. The worst trainer, and by that we mean who's just lazy, who just
I know.
might be great in a match day, but
yeah,
just going to be bothered.
Well, I thought about that one hard, Paul, and I don't have an answer for that one. And the reason being, I think any players that go there, you come up, you have an opportunity every day to train, and it's up to you what you bring to the table. Whether that gets you in the team or whether it doesn't, that's then up to you. But I think as ex-players, we've always got to be respectful. There's one thing that when I see punditry on the TV and all these ex-players, and then they're having a go at a player, when they made the same mistakes themselves, and it really, really frustrates me. So I'm going to dodge that one and be respectful.
Right, you can take the splinters from sitting on the fence. Okay. Most skillful.
I played with a couple. Wee Mickey Weir at Hibs and Kevin McAllister. They were I love the type of players that love to run with the ball at high speed and creative, and just some of the things that they do, they would make it look so easy. We Kevin, anywhere that he's went is loved. I was actually down at the Falkirk game prior to the Friday before we played them. And I just noticed that they named one of the stands after him now. And that's so fitting, for what he's brought to the game. But they too, for me, they were exceptional and skillful players. I had the closest I would say to them and what I've managed would probably be Jamie McCluskey at St Mirren. Jamie came from Hibs at the time, again.
Being on loan as well, I think. Clyde, I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. A
couple of years back. Probably someone that I felt didn't quite fulfil where his talent should have took him. But a wonderful wee ball player in training. You couldn't get. He was like wee Jack Russell. You couldn't get it off him. And probably one that our fans would maybe notice, a little bit more closer to home was big Christoph Severson. Some of the stuff that he could do with a ball, and I know your fans didn't see that in a great deal just due to his injuries, but on the training pitch and that type of stuff, he was a bit special. bit special.
Anytime we've had players on when he was part of the squad, he was the first name that they mentioned.
Yeah.
Most people said that they
Listen,
handle his ankles
and
just with the
when you
ball.
say skillful, you know, it wasn't just one foot, it was both feet, Paul. You know, he was, he's something that he's incredibly worked hard at. He played a lot of football, I think he did over in Norway. So he did, but no, very, very good. That's how his knees are, bugger.
Right, okay. Now slightly more off-field matters. Most intelligent. Who could be trusted with calculating the bill on a night out?
Oh, what are you thinking that one? I think that would have been Wraith Rovers days. That would have been Alec Taylor. Alec was, Alec was proper. You know, he was. Alec would sit at the end of the night. You know, Alec would get into a coffee shop and just sit and have a coffee and a whiskey at the same. You know, he's that type of guy. But he was very, very good in the crosswords. Any of the quizzes and that we had. But Alec Taylor for me was the most intelligent that I've come away from the pitch. On the pitch, there's no doubt in my mind. Big Dave Neary, Big Sash. I had the pleasure of playing with him at Wraith Rovers. In fact, at the age of 37, 38, he was on the team that won the League Cup. And he read the game absolutely brilliantly. So he did, you know, he just smelt danger and just was in the right place at the right time. And our wee kit man at the time, wee John Valente, absolutely loved him because his kit was never dirty. He was absolutely brilliant and a great bloke. So he was.
Right. Flip side, the least intelligent. Who was the dafty?
I've had a couple of players like these, and there was a boy at Wraith Rovers at the time, Robbie Rayside, and there was one at Partick Thistle, Big Scott McLean, the striker, and both of them were called Trigger. So even when I still see these guys, I bump into them at maybe SFA courses and that, and you see how you getting on, Trigger? I say, Danny, the whisper, they say, Danny, don't call, nobody calls me that. So they now realise how thick they were, that they didn't realise then. But Big Scott McLean, he was a special player and he was a fantastic teammate. And he can't be that thick because he's now got a successful roofing company business. So it's great to see him doing well.
Maybe just common sense was the issue then.
Just common sense. I actually think sometimes when they get that tag, I think they play up to it. I think they just keep it going for the camaraderie in the dressing room. So, you know, good team players.
Yeah, but historically, Mark Lamont used to get brought up a lot.
Well, we Mark Lamont, I thought, you know, there's one for you because I think we Mark played up to that, right? And not a bad way. But see, when you started talking football terms to Mark and football language, there was nobody more intelligent. There was nobody more intelligent than asking questions than Mark.
Yeah.
But away from it, you know, you could see the bungalow coming out of them.
Right. Who's the biggest hard man you've played with? Who was the one that, if you were in a tough spot on the pitch, who was first by your side to sort it out?
Wraith Rovers.
You can say yourself if you want.
No, Wraith Rovers had a good team spirit like that. So they did. Big Sean Dennis always looked after your shoulders, and Big Ali Graham, you know, boys like that. They were never too far away. I think the one that I would say the biggest hard man that I've worked with, know the fact that, I mean, he was a poor house. He did go in there and he would look after his teammates. But I think the boy Dan McGregor that I took for Cowan to St Mirren, Paul, exceptional in the way that he was hard inside. You know, he was unbreakable. He went through two cruciate knee injuries, alternative knees, a year apart of one another, and he came back so strong. He came back, went to Glasgow Rangers, you know, won championships with him, and then he got a dream move to, you know, his boyhood heroes, Hibs, and he's made a great living out of the game for him. So, and it's a great story that, because I bought Dan for a junior side for £1,500 when I was at Cowanbeath. And sometimes it's just, you know, something that you see and you give people a platform, and you have a wee helping hand in giving them that opportunity. But he's made himself the man and the player that he is today, no doubt about it. Always whenever I hear Dan's name, his name always brings a smile to my face. I'm
sure Kevin Nichol as well must have been he must have been tempted.
Oh, listen,
Kevin, the yellow card himself.
Listen, big Kevin, you know, Jim Goodwin, And it's funny how you mention them, and they're two that I'd actually forgot about. But you know, they could proper. I think Kevin Nicol. I think his timing in a tackle is absolutely fantastic. Majority. It's just that you know you're not allowed to lead that way. And Kevin Nicol and Jim Goodwin, there are similarities in the way that, as much as they were club captains, you could trust them in so many things. But one of them, what you couldn't really trust them was on the pitch. You know, the amount of times that I had Jim Goodwin, you know, when he get maybe an early yellow card, it get to the stage, Paul, he would run over the technical area and say, look, I promise you, Gaffer, I'm okay, I'll not get sick. And that's the level that we go with Jim before him to withdraw him, or you were playing with 10 men. Kevin was a wee bit more manageable once he went on to a caution. In fact, Kevin never really got a caution, didn't he? No, he gets it straight red.
Quite often it was red.
This was just straight red.
His time at the club was near enough a yellow card every second game.
No.
It's quite remarkable. But yeah, lovely guy.
But I think that's something, Paul, I think that's something that's went out the game. You know, tackling was an art and a skill within its own. So, you know, I think it's something that, I know it's great that you see all these players, you know, with skill and entertainment and that, but, you know, you can't beat a good 50-50.
Yeah, I think.
Or as Jim Goodwin and Kevin, you couldn't beat a good 80-20 in the opposition's favour.
Yeah, and I think given obviously the Montrose game with the red card, we'll move swiftly on from discussing perhaps the art of tackling and decisions, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, the biggest moaner.
Well, that's Alan Moore, no doubt about it. He could fall out be selling an empty room, so he could. Paul, no doubt.
Oh, that was the most clear-cut answer you've given this whole podcast.
I didn't. That was probably the one that I didn't have to think too much about. Neither is. He's wonderful. He's got high standards, you know. And as much as I've given him a wee bit of stick there, you know, he wears his heart on his sleeves. He'll tell you how it is, and he can shoot you down in one sentence, but he could also pick you back up in the next. You know, and that's special.
Yeah, and I think people sometimes, mistake a winning mentality for moaning. I think historically as a player, Barry Ferguson was often outed as being constantly moaning, but it's because he was demanding more
standards.
Standards,
definitely.
Okay. Speaking of standards, who was the worst dressed on a night out? Who looked like they get changed in the dark, Danny?
Right. Well, the worst that I'd seen dressed on a night out was at the time, and the players were going to, I think they were going to Dublin for their Christmas night out a few years back when we had Big Dylan Coggle and wee Jack in the squad at that time. And the players done this draw thing, you know, they would do a draw where you would pick a name out of a hat and then you had to buy that guy an outfit to wear when they were over in Dublin to wear out for their Christmas night out. So when I seen the pictures of this, and I've actually seen the costume live because I actually put it into a black bag when we were emptying the flat when Dylan and Jack had left, and it was Dylan Coggle with a gimp suit. And the worst it is, Paul, he suited it. He looked great.
I think we're now having to do an age rating for the YouTube video. We won't put that as a tagline, certainly. But yeah, that wasn't quite expecting that, Danny.
Well, there you go. That is the worst one that I've ever seen. And fair play to him, you know, it's easy to say I'm nowhere in that, but
he wore it well. Oh, we've lost Danny. Oh, sorry, Danny, we've just lost the audio just for 2 wee seconds here. Sorry, Danny, I think we've lost your mic.
Paul?
Yep, can hear you now.
Sorry, Paul, the phone had went there. It was.
That's fine.
Where did you get to there?
I think I said about Dylan Coggle wearing a gimp suit well.
Yeah, and I think at this minute in time, who looks like they get changed in the dark? That would certainly be Raymond Grant. He dresses like he's a box of licorice, all sorts. So he does. You know, he's all. But to be fair to Raymond, he's his own man, and he pulls it off very, very well. So he does.
Yeah, and he's a baller in the middle of the park as well. So. Listen, Danny, that brings to the end of my questioning. Various degrees, it's been lighthearted, it's been obviously a lot more serious. Just lastly, if you've just got a quick message for the Clyde fans ahead of the big match on Saturday and going forward for what's going to be a big week with 3 matches to come.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for taking the time, Paul, and allowing me to get, you know, where we're up to date, and, you know, as you say, difficult questions. They're not difficult for me. You know, I think you've just got to be open and honest there, and then people can take their own interpretations of that. But my message to the supporters, you know, we're all hurting at this moment in time, and you deserve better. There's no doubt about that. But every season certainly has its ups and downs, and we're looking to end this run of negative results and get back to the football that we produced at the start of the league campaign. Your support has been absolutely fantastic. I know spirits can sometimes get low. I know there's a pinch of the pound in that at the minute in time, but, you know, keep with us, guys. You know, keep cheering us on, and together we'll make positive memories again. I've no doubt about that. And together, guys, we're the Bully Wee.
Listen, that takes it perfectly up to the end of the show, Danny. Thank you very much for your time. It is greatly appreciated, and thank you for your honesty. Thank you all to our viewers for watching, and for our audio-only listeners as well. We will be back next week, and I believe it's a home match next. So we will be on our match day live from 12:30, live from New Douglas Park. And stay tuned for further show announcements. Hopefully we'll have some more lined up interview-wise. So thank you again, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, come on the